Hello, mates.
You know, these big, lovely tits. I don't know why. I just had Rebecca Moore on the brain.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with having the cock destroyers on your head.
Fucking cock destroyers.
If you know what I mean.
No, I don't know what mine. No.
On your head.
Oh my God. Ew. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hot Mess Moments.
This is a NSFW version.
An NSFW.
NSFW.
Everyone that is a European viewer, I mean all two of you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry to the Brits. And then also I slipped a little bit into an Australian accent for a second, so sorry to the Aussies too.
Aussie.
Sorry about it.
So welcome on in, everyone. My name is Dylan Sainer, also known as 8-Bit Dylan. Lost is my favorite show, but I've never seen The Nanny before.
And I'm Beth Dixon, also known as Augusta Wind11. And my favorite show of all time is The Nanny, which we will be discussing today, but I've never seen Lost before. So if you want to see our Lost coverage, be sure to tune in on Thursday when we come back with another Lost episode. But today it is all about season 2, episode 14 of
crazy.
The Nanny. I've Got a Secret. And woo!
Ooh, yeah, it was an interesting episode. We'll get into our breakdown of the coverage, but first I have to ask.
They're coming for me.
The cops.
They're coming for me. That was loud, right?
That was very loud, yeah.
Like they normally go all the way up Smith Street and such right near me, and I'm like, whatever. But like that was like aggressive.
You just walk out, you're like, excuse me, I'm gonna need you to tone it down.
Oh.
Why you tone it down? What did I just say?
No, I was like, take it. So like, take me or whatever. And you're like, excuse me, tone it down, like as if it's like a very different.
Ooey gooey. I don't know where that's going. Anyway, how was your week so far?
So far, so good. I have had a pretty good weekend. I got to relax and sleep in, which we love.
Nice. Love that.
And then I went to an Alamo Draft House and saw the House of Gucci.
Oh, okay. Wait. I need your 50-second review of House of Gucci.
Okay. 3-hour movie that should be 2 hours.
Okay.
The story is good. The way it's written is not. The acting is only good by the supporting characters. Even though Gaga and Adam Driver are obviously acting well, it's just they don't have much to work with, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think that this movie should not win anything for screenplay. Let me just put it out like that. There were also weird moments of music that didn't quite match up that I thought. Like, I know that sometimes they were going for an irony thing and it didn't, I don't know. Huh. It just seemed like it was a little discombobulated, in my opinion. I don't ever plan on seeing it again. I'm happy I saw it the first time. Not altogether completely unpleasant. Wasn't horrible, but just not a movie I have any interest in seeing ever again.
See, I want to watch it for the meme factor. Like, for the fact that it's getting such bad reviews actually makes me want to watch it. But I don't know if I could sit through a 3-hour bad movie. Like, okay. I could sit through like an hour and a half bad movie, but
listen,
yeah,
I'll fly out to St. Louis again. And then we will go to that same theater.
We'll get hammered.
We'll get hammered as we sit there for 3 hours drinking boozy milkshakes. And the person behind us will throw up. And then
oh my God. For those that don't know that story, okay, I don't think we've ever told the story. We might have told the story.
I think we told it on here, but like for those that didn't hear this, I think
I'll give the TLDR. Just imagine, let me paint the picture. Beth, myself, our friend Duskborn, and my husband Nigel, we are in St. Louis it's not an Alamo Draft House, but it's like something like it.
Yeah.
And we spent more money than we ever should in a concession stand for these so much food, so many drinks, alcoholic beverages, what have you. We get in there, we're watching the brand new Halloween, not the 2018 one, but the
Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills. We get about
because evil dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight. But we get to like a third of the way through this movie, and all of a sudden I hear I turn around, I'm like, was that in the film? I was like, did someone throw up on the set and they just like didn't edit that out? Didn't think much of it.
Wait.
What?
You thought someone threw up on the set of the movie?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I was like, there's no way someone is vomiting in here right now. The movie's very gory. So a bunch of people start moving, and then the smell. Oh, girl, you can smell the vomit.
We didn't smell the vomit.
I definitely could smell vomit.
No,
it got cleaned up pretty. I could smell.
The reason why you and I looked at each other was because she vomited a second time.
Yeah, she did.
And then you and I looked at each other. We're both sitting there slouched down in our little reclining seats, and you have a hoodie on, and then we have our masks on, and your eyes, literally, for those who are only listening, I'm sorry that you won't be able to see this, but you literally looked at me like.
I was like, oh my God, this is happening.
And I just looked at you like.
Yeah, so vomiting in theaters, more likely than you think.
And then apparently, like, they came and cleaned it up and everybody left. And I saw the crew come in, but I never saw the crew leave. And I never saw the family leave.
Oh, shit. Wait.
Did you just vomit?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I like to think what happened. The staff re-entered the movie theater and then cleaned up the vomit. And we're like, I'm just going to watch this movie. And I'm just going to pretend that I'm still cleaning up this vomit.
Well, it was so weird because it was only the four of us. Behind us was a family of three, which had parents and then like a 12-year-old child.
Yeah, and they're watching this horribly graphic
movie. Graphic. Like, that's the thing. The Halloween movies were always campy with like a little bit of suspense. The graphic parts always were wherever Michael would hide the bodies and they'd kind of like pop out, right? That had always been the most graphic part. And now they're like, what if we slid this kid's neck and head over and over on a railing? And I'm like, what the hell? And like, show it.
Yeah.
That's the one part I actually stopped watching it because I was like, no.
Yeah.
I could hear it and it was fine.
It was, it's visceral, but a part of me really can't wait until the third one comes out, watch that one, and then like another year later, do a whole trilogy rewatch. Like one right after another, and see how different or how bad it's gotten. Because the first one's still my favorite. I fucking love that movie.
The 2018 one or the original?
Oh, it's so good. The
2018 one's good.
It's so good. But we're not a Halloween podcast. We're actually a Nanny podcast. But before we get into the Nanny, it's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you about a journey really quick that I've been on.
I can't wait to hear this journey.
So my husband started watching I don't know what the term for it is. They came back to make another 3 more seasons of Will and Grace.
Oh yeah.
It's not a reunion.
The reboot.
Yeah, the reboot. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. And I know I probably should have watched the original, but I was like, he started watching the newer series and I was like, let me sit through this. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's good. The reboot was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I
didn't watch every bit of it because I got rid of cable, so I never watched the rest of it. But I thought it was good. I love Will and Grace.
It very much emulates The Nanny. Like it's giving me Nanny vibes.
What did I tell you?
For sure. I am kind of glad that we aren't covering it on here though, because some of the humor in it okay, so let me state this. It's like if we were to watch The Nanny set in 2021 because they mentioned Venmo and like YouTube and like all these like they pepper in all this modern lingo to like, oh look, we're in 2020s now. Yeah. But it's really good. Still offensive as fuck. Like there is a joke that is like horribly racist against Asian people in the reboot, and I'm like, how did this get through?
Was that Karen who said it?
No, Will. No, Jack says it. And
I feel like whatever Jack and Karen says gets a big slide, and I'm like Karen more so because her character is actually supposed to be offensive. Like she's supposed to be like the woman who has voted for Trump. Like that is her
Oh yeah.
character. You know what I mean?
She like
She's friends with Donald Trump in that show. Like that's
yeah.
literally,
Like
that's their whole
Karen,
thing.
that there's like a weird arc where she becomes a lesbian and it's really funny and she like dresses like a masculine lesbian.
I
It's
can't
so
deal.
fucking offensive, but I love it because it's filmed in front of a live studio audience. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have never seen like a modern day show filmed in front of a live audience because I relate sitcoms to like back in the day. And
Yeah.
it changed like the energy of the show for me. Like watching it, it was funnier to me because like even though there's like a laugh track, it with like a live audience, there's a few things that like Grace will do, and you hear that one woman in the audience be like, "Yes!" And she like
Okay, don't call me out. I'm right here.
and I'm like, this is great. I need more of this. Like, I want more shows in front of a live studio audience
That's what
now.
I'm saying. Like, I know that the 90s shows are getting kind of like they're all of them are getting revivals and such right now, but like bring back the Everybody Loves Raymond, the Nanny, those kind of things, but also like let's maybe bring back the shows like In Living Color and such as
Oh
well.
my God. That would be amazing if they brought that back in living color.
Yeah.
I would love, I doubt it would work, but I would love a reboot of My Wife and Kids. Loved that show.
Oh,
I would love to see
yeah.
like the kids all grown up and having their own kids, and I think that'd be great. But one show, if I had to choose any show besides Lost that I want a reboot of, because I there is so much they could do with Lost that they could keep the
Mhm.
story going if they wanted to. But um I would love a reboot of Pushing Daisies. It
I
is
never watched that. Did that Lee Pace in
oh
it?
yes. Honestly, I would love at some point if we finish these shows after finishing Lost, if we watch Pushing Daisies,
I'm
because
down.
you will fucking love it because you love
I
musicals and they
I'm
make
down.
so many
Is Kristen
Broadway
Chenoweth
references.
in that?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Okay. I really wanted to see that, but I never had.
it is outside of Lost, Pushing Daisies is my second favorite show of all time. It is so good. It
Wow.
criminally underrated, and the writer strike like destroyed that show, which was sad.
Oh,
It was meant to have multiple seasons. Oh, here I know we're going on this huge tangent, but
let's do it.
so Pushing Daisies, listen, this is my journey with Pushing Daisies.
Okay.
The original run of the show, it only has 2 seasons. The first season's really short, the second season's pretty long
Okay.
because they knew the show was a success after the first season. The writer strike kills the show mid-season of season 2. So you have all these great storylines that they start introducing, and they're like, fuck, we have 3 episodes, we have to wrap this up. So they have to wrap up the entire show. I never knew that there was an additional 3 episodes that wrap everything up. So the last episode I saw
Was not the
on
finale?
was not the finale. And I had lived like 12 years of my life pissed off because I was like, there's just no real ending to the show. Like, what the fuck? And then it came onto HBO Max and I was flipping through it and I was like, oh my God, Pushing Daisies, Nigel, we should watch this. And I started going through the episodes and I remembered the episode that I had ended on. And I go to season 2 and it shows that there's 3 additional episodes. I was like, wait, what? Apparently, these 3 episodes had aired on cable television, but were like delayed because of the writer strike, but they did eventually air. So
Wow.
when I tell you, I went from like being so mad at Pushing Daisies to very much enjoying the ending of Pushing Daisies that they wrapped it up in 3 seasons. I was like, oh my God, this is like vindication that I needed for this show.
I want you to know the amount of times that I've dreamt that there are lost episodes of The Nanny because I actually think there are. I
Okay.
actually think that they filmed 2 or 3 episodes that never aired
Oh,
in
okay.
the last season. It's not
Okay.
proven, but somewhere I read that and I've chosen to believe it is true
Yeah.
for far too long. I'm convinced, but I obviously cannot talk about it right now because you wouldn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So in like 2.5 years, when we get to season 6, we'll talk about it.
Exactly.
But you know what we should cover when we finish? If the other show that's also short. Okay. Did you ever watch Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23?
I fucking love that show. I've seen one episode.
That show was so good, and they canceled it like so early because nobody watched it, and it's so good. Everybody that I know, nobody watched it when it was live. They all watched it when it came out on Netflix, and everyone's just like, how the fuck was this canceled? I'm like, because all of us collectively said, nah, and then watched it on Netflix. Yep. That's a show that needs to be rebooted.
That's a great show. I would love to cover that in the future because I've seen one episode. That one episode, I was like, "Ooh, girl, they've got a hit. This is a hit.
We need to follow." My friend Anne, which she got engaged today. I'm so excited!
Oh, that's congrats, Anne.
Her family and everything knows, so it's okay. I say,
okay,
but I'm very excited. Anyway,
like none of her family know.
Could you imagine if I had been like, "You heard it here first, folks"? My friend Anne. No, but she came over about, I don't know, like 4 years ago, and she and I were having margaritas like all night, and we watched
there's a theme here.
Watched so many episodes of Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, and I went, I'm gonna go pass out. And she went, okay, I'm just gonna sleep on the couch tonight. I was like, are you sure? I've got a guest bed, you can come up. She's like, no, I just want to continue to watch this, and I'll probably fall asleep to it. And I was like, okay. I woke up the next day and she had left, and I was like, whatever, no big deal. I texted her and I was like, how far did you get into the series? She was like, I was up until 6 and I watched it, and then I just got up and left and went home. I never slept. She watched the entirety of it because I don't know if it's actually 2 seasons or just 1, but
I believe it only. I don't quote me. I think it only had 1 season.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure she watched all 24 episodes.
Yeah, but it was a full season, so like it was successful in the beginning. They gave it a full episode order.
I'm just like, my God,
it got canceled.
But that's the kind of show it is. It's the kind that you could literally sit down and like just watch in one day and be like,
yeah.
I mean, I do that all the time with The Nanny. I'll watch an entire season of The Nanny within a weekend. You know what I mean?
That's wild to me. I couldn't do that. But I say that now, and we're almost finished with the reboot of Will and Grace, and we started watching it like a week ago.
My parents have gone back and started watching Will and Grace from the beginning because they knew I really liked it, and now they're really into it and they love it.
Good. I need to watch. I kind of want to watch the original to see.
You should watch the original. Now, always keep in mind the message that we have said multiple times here, which is that it is offensive.
Oh yeah, and it's stereotyped.
And it's stereotyped to the nth degree, which is also why it's offensive. But and I will repeat it again: if you like Will and Grace and you like The Nanny, you would like Friends. But it's the same structure, essentially, like this kind of like, facial expressions and riffs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. But I think
the reason I'm not drawn to Friends is it's so straight. It's like to me, it might not be because I've never seen the show, but like it reads to me very heterosexual. But The Nanny is like steeped in gayness because it's about like a nanny, and it's just, I don't know. And then like Will and Grace is very gay. So like
there's a lot of straight in Friends for sure. But what I think I like the most about it is that even though the men are fucking toxic sometimes, just like in all of these shows that we're going to talk about, Friends, none of the men are like manly men.
Oh, okay.
Chandler and Ross especially are kind of like made fun of because they're not like Joey's kind of like a stud, but he's dumb. They actually make him progressively dumber as the series goes on. He starts off and he's really not that dumb in like the first season or 2, but he gets like progressively dumber. He's supposed to be like the dumb, cute one. And then Chandler's like the dry, sarcastic one. Chandler's father is a gay man who's a drag queen. Like, I mean, there's just like stuff about it that's just kind of fun.
Interesting.
Whose drag show is called Viva Las Vegas.
Okay, I might have to check it out now.
And then like the 3 girls are just awesome too. Like, I mean, you watch the show for like everybody hates Ross, so like whatever. But what sucks is like, so Ross and Monica are brother and sister, and I am a combination of Ross and Monica. Like that's who I am as a person. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, Ross sucks so much, but I'm also like, I'm the Ross of my friend group.
Okay, I might maybe in the future I'll check it out in
Yeah.
between watching Star Trek and everything with my husband.
Yeah.
But let's get into it. We've 21 minutes and I apologize. This is the longest intro I think we've ever had, but we had a lot to talk about. So
Okay.
it's time for us to cover The Nanny, episode 14
Of season 2.
of season 2. I forgot the name.
I've got a secret.
She was there. That's how she became the nanny.
So this episode of The Nanny, I
need your
it was
thoughts.
all right.
I need your ratings. I need all those fun things about it.
Yeah. I would probably give this episode a 7 out of 10. Thought it was pretty good. There's nothing that was really like awful about this episode. I liked the structure of it. I like that we got a fun moment between Cece and Fran. I love that we also get a lot more character play between Maxwell and Fran. I think that's great.
Yep.
We even see a lot more Gracie this episode, which I thought was really cool. You know what? This is an 8 out of 10. This is an 8 out of 10.
Okay. You're
I really
convincing
can't.
yourself over here.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that was too crazy about this episode. And I liked the message at the end. And it shows how shitty Maxwell is for making Fran feel shitty. And then he can't even keep the secret. So
yes. He's being sexist, and he also got called out on it. I love that Fran immediately is like, that's the most sexist thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And then he goes to immediately do the same thing with Niles. And then she calls him out there. And then at the end of the episode, once again. So I kind of want to break something down for you quickly.
Ooh,
just some frame of reference for like setting you up for the rest of the series here.
Okay.
So we're starting to see in these past few episodes, this one is as well, some of the elements that are always going to get teased out from here on out. So one of the biggest elements that we've kind of had allusions to in the past, but didn't get a lot of until really this episode, like to the level of fanaticism, is how obsessed Fran is with celebrities.
Yeah.
And that she happens to be in a household where meeting celebrities can happen. So it is so much fun for me to kind of see the structure come to life, because we saw how she acted with, Barbara Streisand when Cece's dad comes in the first season, and that she's like all excited to see Barbara Streisand because that's like her all-time favorite like person. But we're starting to see her obsession as she's going through the magazine, as she's trying to figure out who's there. Oh, this person's having surgery. This person's in rehab. This person's doing this. And this is something they will continually tease on moving forward. So they started to see, this structure of like, this is how we could bring on some guest stars in the future. Is so-and-so could be working with Maxwell, either as themselves or as a character. And Fran's going to be obsessed with them. And that's how we're going to do stuff. So that is something that we're going to see move on from there. But I will say this episode in particular, like while there's some really funny moments and good jokes and such, this is probably the worst attempt at what they do. And it's because they do it for the first time, but they get so much better with the celebrity appearances in the future. I mean, that wasn't really Cher, but it was a Cher impersonator and not Cousin Ira.
I had a feeling it was definitely a Cher impersonator.
Cher.
I could tell because of the fact that the audience didn't freak out when Cher was on screen. I was like, there is no fucking way this audience is just so chill when Cher's on screen. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'd be like pooping and peeing in the audience and like screaming. I'd be like, it's fucking
now
Cher.
I need you to go back and watch the original Will and Grace, because there's just the best Cher guest appearance ever.
Really? She's in it?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
It's amazing.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't poop and pee watching it now. I would only poop and pee if I was in the audience.
So,
little
poo pee pee boy.
Yeah, little poo pee pee boy. I also really like in this episode that we get to see more of Val. We haven't seen really a lot of Val. She wasn't my favorite in this episode though, but I did like Val, that we got to see her. And I'm going to be honest, we're episode 14 into season 2. I thought we'd be getting a little bit more of this Maxwell-Fran relationship. And I feel like they're starting to pull away from that because they realize that this show's probably going to be on the air longer than this season. And so I felt like in the beginning of season 2, they were like giving us a little bit of what we wanted. But now we're like at the halfway point of season 2, if not already past it. And they're like, shit, we got to make this last. And so they are now trying to play up this Lucy, or I Love Lucy, this Lucy Lou, as we said, this I Love Lucy relationship between Maxwell and Fran, and we get that with that reference.
I was just gonna say, you got some explaining to do. Yeah. There's a lot of different things. We started to see this last week and the week before. I made mention of it, of how you're going to start seeing Maxwell literally yell at Fran. We start seeing that in this episode. They added the new element, which is part of the physical comedy of the show, which is going to be Maxwell chasing Fran around the house and doing those little moments and stuff, which, like, when you think about it in real life is like borderline domestic violence of like chasing someone in the house. But like, because it's a lighthearted comedy, like you just kind of be like, oh, that's like really funny.
Oh, he's beating her.
But like every time he grabs her, it's like normally he like brings her in like for like, it's almost like a hug or an embrace of some sort. But it is like really funny to just see him like kind of chase, or she's just like running around those, it's just part of the comedy. And then what we saw for her style on this episode is quintessential Fran from here on out. Like that is the quintessential kind of look.
I want to talk about this.
Yes.
It is so hard to pick an outfit of the episode because there was not a single episode that stood out to me. But they were all
outfit.
Yeah, but they were all great outfits. So like there wasn't like a bad outfit in the bunch, but they all looked similar. They were like the same red, white, black color scheme, just mix and matched with textiles and textures and like
and a similar hairdo every single time.
Yeah. So
with that red lip.
I think if I had to choose an outfit of the episode, I like when she was wearing is it called a bustier? Like the
black leather one. Like the shiny leather. Oh, I love that episode. And that kind of like almost plaid skirt that's super pleated that like has, oh, it's so good. That's my outfit of the episode.
Yeah,
Every time
I really like
look
it.
at it, I'm like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's so freaking cute. Oh, hi, Henry.
What's Henry. Up, we got a guest coming on in here.
Yeah,
Henry wants to talk about his favorite
first time.
Hi, oh, look at that, Henry.
What's up, buddy? He's like scared of something. He's got anxiety. He's for those who don't know, I have a rescue pupper. His name is Henry. He's pretty anxious.
Oh, poor boy.
Here, do you want to talk about the episode some more? I'm gonna go make sure he's okay.
Yeah, of course. So another thing that we really like about this episode in particular, for the audience at home, that I think is really interesting is that we also get a little bit of background on Fran and Val. What we figure out is that Val is also not Jewish. Fran is Jewish, but Val is Catholic. And this is actually something that's really funny, like especially when you look at, not that this was the conflict in the West Side Story or anything, but like when you look at various different kinds of shows that have taken place in New York City, it is really kind of fun to see like, the families that are like Jewish and Catholic kind of like living together and such. So Dylan, what I was just saying for the audience is, and for our listeners and such, is that what I like about this episode is that this is the first time we really get more of a definition of kind of like the background of Val and Fran's friendship, which is that Val is not Jewish. She is Catholic. And that is something that is like really popular in New York City is like, you had like, especially in like Queens and Brooklyn, there were huge communities of like Catholic and like Italian Catholic and then Irish Catholic kind of like communities intermixed in with all of these different like Hebrew and Jewish communities. So it's very New York to have that kind of background. It kind of reminds me a little bit, even though it's not the same thing at all, because you're talking about, I was kind of bringing up West Side Story and like how that was really supposed to, now this is about to be musical theater trivia for y'all.
Oh, I'm
West
definitely going
Side
to answer
Story
this correctly.
Is the story about Puerto Rican immigrants versus like, you know, the white boys. Like,
I have no idea. I don't even know the story of West Side Story. Again, I don't get musicals. I don't know anything about musicals.
The West Side Story is coming out with a new movie. Like,
yeah, I've heard about
month that Steven Spielberg has directed, and we should watch it. But anyway, so the story is supposed to be about warring gangs in the 1950s. And they make it about Puerto Rican immigrants versus like white, like lower class kind of guys, like almost like greaser kind of guys in New York City, in Manhattan, supposed to be in Hell's Kitchen. What is so interesting? And so do you know the show that it's based off of, the Shakespearean play?
I don't.
It's Romeo and Juliet. It's Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
So it's instead of the Capulets and the Montagues, it's, you know,
these two
the Puerto Ricans and the white dudes, and they're the Sharks, which is the Puerto Ricans, and the Jets, which are the white guys. And so it becomes an issue about race and everything. So that's why it's like way ahead of its time. Originally, though, it was supposed to be Catholics versus Jews. And then they were like, you know what? We can't do this because there are so many communities that are integrated. And they also thought it was way too on the nose, but that there could be a bigger and better message talking about race. And that's why they switched it to that. So the original musical, also, I'm just going to go on these things for just a couple of people because I love it so much. And like, I need you to know this before you go watch it.
It's our fucking podcast. We can talk about it.
That's right. So they also, the original, for those that don't know, Stephen Sondheim, may he rest in peace, wrote all the lyrics. So whenever you hear any of the songs from the Tonight or Somewhere, Someplace, you know, all those different kinds of things, Something's Coming, he wrote all those words. And then when they did the movie musical, they added America. So the song that arguably, besides like Maria and Tonight, maybe that people know the most of the da 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 da. You don't know that? Oh my God, Dylan.
No, I don't know any of this.
That's like popular music, though. It's not just like, oh, this was in a musical. Like, you've never heard Maria.
I have heard that.
Just met a girl named Maria. Okay, good.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I was literally about to like teleport my body to St. Louis and slap you, and they just come back. You will fucking watch this tonight. Oh, I'm bringing the DVD over. But no. So all that said is that bringing it back to the nanny, that's what I thought is really cool. It's a really small piece of information that we get, but it is just important to know that like that Val is, you know, an Italian Catholic woman, and Fran is, you know, a Jewish woman from the same neighborhood.
I did find that interesting for sure. It also, I just didn't realize Val was religious at all. I didn't know that they were going to touch on that for her
Val
character.
Toriello.
But I liked it.
Yeah.
Another thing about this episode that I thought was really interesting was obviously the inclusion of the drag cousin or the cousin that does drag. And so we've noticed that like Maxwell in the first season is very comfortable around gay men. He's like not bothered by gay stuff at all. No. And in this episode, they played him up to be like very uncomfortable. Not like against it. He didn't hate Fran's cousin. He just felt like it's like if a straight man goes to a gay bar and isn't fully comfortable with themselves, they feel like I have to act a certain way in order to not be associated with these gay men in this bar.
Yeah, Max is so straight. Like, that's the issue.
Yeah.
The other thing I think with his character, because I was trying to think if that's how I, when I was watching it, I was trying to be like, is he not comfortable with it? And I honestly think it's more because he doesn't believe this plan is going to work.
Possibly. And I was thinking that too. I was like, maybe that's where I'm reading into this. But despite like the very like the very rudimentary terminology that is used in this episode, I was more so annoyed with the fat jokes.
Mhm.
The nanny has this huge problem about making like weight jokes.
Yep.
And while I appreciate they weren't punching down at gay humor or like gay people at all, they absolutely were punching down at the fact that this man was overweight and dressed as
Yep.
Cher. Now, mind you, it was funny as fuck.
No,
Like,
it was great and it was super
Yeah.
funny. But the whole point is exactly what you're saying. It says it doesn't matter if it's Sylvia or if they're just talking about Oprah losing and gaining weight or if it's a drag queen or whatever. They always we have a mutual friend, Matt Henning, who shout out to Matt. How you doing?
hey, Matt.
Matt and I have had quite a few conversations where we still in 2021 are kind of getting to terms with the fact that like fat people and obese people and bigger people are kind of the last frontier of people who are it's like still okay to be prejudiced against and like in our society, and that's starting to change. But we're in the throes of like this is the society. And this is the kind of show that I watch, but it's not just the show. It was every show that I ever watched that had these kind of jokes in it. So like when you grow up and all you see is this messaging as if like being fat is something to be made fun of about and be torn down and to be prejudiced against and like everything, but it's like okay to do that. That's why we still have these issues. That's why we have stupid bros on TikTok that are telling people, like, if you want to lose weight, stop eating these things, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
like
It's-
leave it to the experts and such,
Yeah, it's one thing to like have a one-off joke about weight, but this is a recurring trend and
Yep.
it's getting annoying.
Yep.
I was loving the like overweight Cher. I think that's hilarious.
That's
where it's
funny. Yeah,
where
that
they're
part's
like,
funny.
it's clearly not Cher, and even the reporters like, what the fuck? And so like Maxwell makes a few jokes, but then they like keep making jokes about like about what I forgot
The
cousin's
thong used to
name.
be a hammock or something like that.
Yeah, they like keep making jokes, and I'm just like, all right, we get it. It's an overweight gay man. We get
Right.
it. So that part didn't age as well for me in this, but
That, and like you said before, like you called it rudimentary language. We'll call it very dated. It's not. It's
Very
no
dated.
longer the terminology that we would
I couldn't
use.
think of the word.
Because
Yeah,
they called him like a female impersonator, and then they use another word that is no longer goes to do, and that's again.
It's
That's
just
what
and
you
it's
said in the 90s, but it is
Yeah.
like, it's very different almost 30 years later. But
Oh yeah, and I can't fault the show too much because I like that it's even having gay characters or it's even covering gay topics.
Yeah.
And I did think it was really funny that they were like, "This is how we're going to get Cher out of this house." And the minute Fran said that, I was like, "Oh my god, they are not about to do this." And very funny, very very funny. The one thing I also want to talk about is Gracie. So we got more Gracie in this episode, which I appreciated. And she actually had lines outside of like one single thing that she said. I thought she was great in this episode. You could tell that her character was having fun, or the actress was having fun, that the actress was like, oh my God, I get to be in a scene. Like that's kind of like what I got from it. It's the vibe. And I want to see her appear more. I don't think we're going to see her appear more throughout the life of the show. But I would like them, especially as she starts getting older, like seeing what they do with her. Because
keep going.
No, I'm just saying because there's something there, I feel like.
So I actually wanted to ask you about that. What was the biggest difference in her kind of dialogue and her lines that you noticed that you liked?
Oh, because it wasn't like season 1 where all of her humor derived from the fact that she was depressed. And in this, even all of season 2, it's more so she's so innocent but she's not innocent because she talks about grown-up things, but they're not like grown-up NSFW things. They're like grown-up like the Wall Street Journal. Like she'll like talk about the Wall Street Journal and you're like, how old are you? Like what?
So that's exactly it. But that's the point I wanted to get to, which is that I like the choice that she has always shown that she is wise beyond her years.
Oh yeah.
And that she's very, very, very intelligent. And what I like is that you have the youngest child who is a little precocious, but for the most part is just incredibly intelligent and rivals like she's smarter than Fran. She's smarter than Maggie. She's smarter than Brighton. She's smarter than Maxwell. And that's the kind of direction that they start to go, oh, she can still have mental health issues, whatever, because that's great. But let's not make that every single thing she says. Let's make her more like the really smart kid who is like, oh, yeah, I'm a 7-year-old who's scared of 60 Minutes, not a Mummy movie. You know, like that kind of thing.
I thought that was funny. I was like,
oh,
yeah.
And that's,
I feel ya. Like,
exactly. She, a few episodes ago, she was afraid of global warming, so it's just like she's still afraid and she still has these anxieties and such, but it's derived from a place that is very adult in nature.
And I have to give a shout out to Fran and Cece in that fucking office. That is the best scene in this episode,
it's
like
so
by
good.
far. I love just the character play of like Cece pretending that she knows this and just Fran calling her out on it. And then she drops the act so fast and she's like, all right, let's fucking work together. Let's figure this out.
It's so good. And I also really love that you see this changing tide, which is that, neither one of us have the upper hand on each other. So let's work together. Mm-hmm. And I really, really like that.
And I said, I feel like we're getting to a point where we're going to start seeing Fran and Cece become friends, where I really feel like they're going to have like a maybe a girls' night out in the future, or they're going to have like this camaraderie between the two of them. I don't know if it's going to stem from the fact that like maybe I originally said it was because Fran gets with Maxwell. And so Cece feels rejected. And so Cece turns to her because she doesn't want Cece to feel bad and tries to build her up to find her a man. Like, I don't know if that's like the route they're going to go down, or if it's much like fuck men, let's stick together, girl. And like, that's, I don't know.
It just turned into like a super feminist thing. They become lesbian lovers.
Yeah.
I love,
Cece's like, I'll take you to my wine cellar.
You can tease me. Not just my hair this time.
I hate that.
Okay, so we are now halfway through a little over halfway through season 2.
Yeah.
I want some updates on your theory. So one of your theories was about Fran and Cece, and you kind of just talked a little bit about that. But is there anything more that you think is going to happen from here until the end of season 2 with Fran and Cece?
I don't see them switching the formula too much in season 2. This is for all the characters. I really don't see them making too many waves. Probably in the last like 3 episodes, they're probably going to make some waves where we might see an awkward sexual tension between Maxwell and Fran to entice people to want to watch a season 3. So it's like a will they, won't they, like kind of thing. I think that's where we're kind of heading down that route. I could also see if they really, I don't think they'll do this. I could see them getting real weird, and there's a will they, won't they between Cece and Maxwell. I don't think they go down that route, but there is potential there where it's like, will they, won't they? And Fran feels like, oh shit, I do have feelings for Maxwell. And then Maxwell easily is like, oh shit, this isn't what I wanted. Go away from me. And then Cece's like,
go away from me.
She's like, no, Cece's like, I want more. Or I don't know. I don't see them going down that route, but I could potentially. And then I think the kids are just going to stay the same. Like I feel like season 2 or the end of season 1 ramped things up so quickly for me that I was shocked that they didn't keep ramping up in season 2, but it makes sense. I don't see them ramping up similarly into like season 1 until the end of season 2.
Gotcha.
So those last 3 episodes, I think, is when we're going to get the juicy stuff.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay. So MVP, LVP.
Yes. Give me your MVP and your LVP.
LVP has to go to Maxwell.
Yeah.
Sexist as fuck. He is literally the guy that like spreads the rumor that ends up having CHER have all this paparazzi outside of the house.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he has these types of conversations in these gentlemen's clubs or whatever, like pig, he's exhibiting pig-like behavior. And then he's like blaming Fran for shit that he's doing.
Oink, oink,
Disgusting.
bitch.
Oink, oink, mofo. As for MVP, I'm gonna give it to the cousin who does the. No, I'm kidding.
To cousin Ira.
To cousin Ira. No, I'm gonna give MVP. I'm gonna give it to Val.
Oh, okay.
So here's why. Fran, I can't give it to Fran because Fran can't keep a fucking secret, and she tells Val. And so Val actually does keep a secret. The only person she tells is her priest. And so like I think she gets off for that. It's a confession.
Yeah.
You know. You're not supposed to keep secrets, I guess, in confessions. So she actually is a good friend and like doesn't tell anyone about this secret and is willing to like sit and take the brunt of Maxwell's force of like, also that scene was so hot when Maxwell's like, sit. And he's like,
they were both
them.
sat down and I was just like,
I was like,
tell him again.
I was like, tell me what to do, Maxwell. Like, I'll be submissive for you, Maxwell.
I love that episode or that scene so much though, because we're friends like, that's it, Val. We're not going to get to college. You know?
Yeah, that's so silly. But I like that Val like sticks around up until Fran tells her to leave, basically. But Val was more than willing and committed to like sit there and like take the blame for this, even though we know she's not the one that did this. So I think like I have to give it to Val because there's no other characters that really like exude positive traits. Again, I'm giving this based off the story, not based off the acting. If I was going to give it like based off the acting, I'd probably give it to Cece because I thought she was so fucking funny. But definitely MVP, Val, LVP, Maxwell.
Love that. All right. So next week is another twofer that we're going to do.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so I'll try to predict both.
Okay. So episode 15 of season 2, there's no way that you get this, by the way.
Okay, so I'm going to go outside the box for it.
It's called Kinderwelt Days.
Okay, hear me out. Kinderwelt Days. I'm going wild on this.
Do you want me to give you a hint?
Who is it centric?
Fran.
Okay, so hear me out. Because they're leaning in so much on the Jewish traditions, we're going to get a family reunion episode for Fran, where Fran and all of her family, including Yetta, the cousins, everything, are all there. And it's a tradition within their family gatherings to play a game or something of sorts. It's a Jewish tradition that they've kind of put their own Italian like spin on. And so Maxwell and the kids get wrapped up into this. And Maxwell gets obsessed with this game because money's involved and he has to prove himself because he's a man. And so he has to prove himself. And so Fran's like talking about like this tradition where like the man that wins like a prize. And so Maxwell gets a little too into it and gets too like intense into it. And the kids meanwhile are like interacting with all the family members. And that's like, I don't know. That's where I would love to see this go.
Okay. It's I will give you one word that was correct in that.
Oh.
Which was reunion.
Okay. I'll take it.
So we have that episode. And then season 2, episode 16 is Canasta Masta.
This is a Yetta episode.
Yetta is in this episode, yes.
Okay, so Canasta Masta. Oh, this is tough. Canasta Masta. I'm going to go on a limb here.
Okay.
And say the bulk of this episode has Cece and Yetta in it.
Okay.
Because we haven't really seen these two characters interact. And I think that's like a gold mine. So maybe what happens, there's some sort of tournament in town that Sylvia is a part of. That
Okay.
Sylvia, like her and her crew of like older women are going to win this tournament. So in order for the tournament to happen, they need to, and it's definitely not it, they need to raise enough money. And so start fundraising in order to earn enough money so that her girls can go and perform this tournament. See, and getting involved with all of this because money involved. We learned that the charity funding that they're doing actually has a lot of potential to make a lot of money. Like this product they're selling or whatever they're doing. CC gets involved and is like, hold up, I can do this even better. And starts trying to make as money from this thing. She's a mogul thing. And to Yetta and Sylvia and to deal with the frame as CC and be this business boss businesswoman, and that's just right.
I don't even know if you can hear me right now, but
Yeah,
that
I can.
entire time you were robotic and like frozen essentially for me.
Yeah, you're out for me. You're not off for me, but you're
I can't even make out what you're saying.
Oh no. Okay, so Beth's having internet issues. Give me a second. Let's wrap it up.
1 second. I'm going to leave and then come back.
Oh, it might mind because I came back to the chat. Oh no, it's on my end. Okay, hold up. All right, I think.
I don't think it's me.
Definitely me. All right, I have to end here. Thank you so much for again. My internet's being stupid. Check out Beth at Augustin11. Go check her out on Twitter. Go check her out on Twitter.
Oh, I can hear you fine now. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm wrapping it up. Go check out Beth at Augusta Wind on Twitter. Go check me out at 8-Bit Dylan or follow us at Hot Mess Moments. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so that entire time when you were explaining what you thought was going to happen in Canasta Masta, I didn't hear a single one of it. And then you're like, and then I heard you kind of say, I don't know, that's just what I'm thinking. And I was like,
Well,
I didn't hear a single part of it.
I'll tell you my theory was definitely off. It
I will
involved
tell
Yetta
you
and
that there
Cece.
were aspects that I did hear that were spot on.
Oh, so it's like a canasta tournament with Sylvia and her girls. They're doing a charity fundraiser in order to raise enough money. Cece gets involved with it because she sees money and she tries to boss bitch businesswoman it. And she gets on the nerves of like Sylvia and them.
Gotcha.
Because she's like trying to make too much money. And so Yetta gets involved. And like Yetta and Cece have this like fight.
I will just say that the Canasta tournament portion is correct. That's it.
Love it.
Hey, but I'm
Let's
excited
go.
to cover those 2 episodes with you. And then we'll be nearing the end. We'll only have about 7 more weeks or something like that.
That's
or not
crazy.
7, like maybe like 10 more weeks tops. But
That's wild. To
I'm
me.
excited.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Hot Mess Moments. We will be back here on Thursday with some Lost coverage. And until then, stay awesome, stay beautiful, you lovely people.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, my babies.
Bye, babies.
Bye-bye, babies.